All right, let's talk about burnout, but probably not in the way you're used to. We're going to dive into this incredible story from a doctor who spent 56 years in the field, and his experience it completely flips the script on how to handle extreme pressure. Let's do this.
I know, it sounds totally backward, right? I mean, we're all taught that pressure, especially relentless pressure, is what causes burnout. But what if? What if that's not the whole story? This doctor's experience suggests that in just the right circumstances, that same intensity can actually be the very thing that protects you from it. And this right here, this is the core idea. For a second, just forget everything you've heard about quiet quitting or taking more vacations. This story boils it down to three powerful forces that build resilience when things get tough. So let's break down what they are and exactly how they work. Okay, so our story kicks off in what the author calls the crucible. And that's the perfect name for it, really. It was a true trial by fire, something that pushed him and his team to their absolute limits. But what came out of it? Well, that was the secret to real, sustainable endurance. So I want you to picture this. It's the 1980s in Chennai, India. A young, freshly minted doctor is starting his career at one of the busiest maternity hospitals on the entire planet. And I'm not talking about some quiet, peaceful clinic. No, no. This place was the absolute epicenter of life, of crisis, 24/7.
21. Just think about that number for a second. 21 hours. That's how long a single shift was for this doctor and his team. Every single week. A nonstop, unbroken shift of just immense responsibility. It's kind of hard to even wrap your head around.
And this shift was just relentless. It would kick off at 1 p.m., go all through the day, all through the night. And even at 3 in the morning, when you'd think you'd have nothing left, they were still teaching the junior residents. The work just did not stop. Not until 7 a.m. the next day. You can only imagine the physical and emotional toll. I mean, every single complication you could read about in a medical textbook, it was happening right there, in real time, in front of them. This should have been the perfect recipe for burnout, right? But here's the thing, they didn't break. And that leads to the big question, why not?
Well, the answer is pretty incredible. It lies in this framework they built, almost by accident, right in the middle of all that chaos. He calls it the anti-burnout triad.
It all came down to three pillars that protected them. First, a really powerful shared purpose. Second, the support of a super tight-knit team, a tribe. And third, the kind of deep satisfaction you only get when you master something truly difficult. Okay, so pillar number one, purpose. With all that chaos swirling around them, their mission was so simple and so clear. For the patient. That's it. Everything they did was for the patient, and that focus was like a laser beam. It cut through all the petty stuff, the complaints, the office politics. It was their North Star. Then you've got pillar two, tribe. And this is so important. They weren't just a bunch of doctors working in the same room. They were a unit, a team. They were in the trenches together, sharing the stress, celebrating the wins, and supporting each other through the losses. You know, that 3 a.m. teaching session, it wasn't a chore. It was them reinforcing their bond, their collective strength. They truly had each other's backs. And this third pillar, this one is so fascinating. It's all about mastery. Think about it. There's this incredible, almost joyful feeling you get when you become really, really good at something that's super hard. Instead of draining them, the challenge itself actually became their fuel. It energized them. So you see, this whole experience wasn't just about surviving. It was what he calls a clarifying fire. It burned away everything else and showed him what truly mattered. It was right there in that intense environment, surrounded by the very beginning of life, that he found his calling and decided to specialize in it. But wait, the story doesn't stop there. That crucible, it forged his resilience for sure. But it was a wild twist of fate, or maybe you'd call it karma, that was about to open up a door he never saw coming.
And it all started with a simple rule he had for himself. An act of integrity, really. He made it a point to never charge fellow doctors or their families for medical care. Just a small gesture of professional courtesy, you know? But that one small rule was about to pay off in a way he could have never, ever predicted. So one of those colleagues, a guy whose wife he had treated, sent him something in the mail. It was just a small, faded clipping from a newspaper, but on it was an announcement for a huge opportunity, a prestigious scholarship to go train in the UK. Now here's the thing. The official notice that was supposed to go around the hospital, it got lost in all the bureaucracy. This little piece of paper was his only shot.
Okay, so fast forward a few months. He actually gets a letter inviting him for an interview. Amazing, right? But there's a huge catch. The letter says his official application sent from his hospital needs to be on file. So he starts asking around and gets that cold, sinking feeling in his stomach. The application is gone. It's lost. The entire opportunity is just about to disappear. And what happened next is straight out of a movie. It was this frantic, desperate race against time. He's running through government buildings, calling in every favor he can from grateful patients and contacts he's made over the years, all to get a brand new application signed by the state's chief minister. And he gets it. He gets the signature with literally hours to spare before he has to jump on a train to Delhi for the interview. And you know what? Against all odds, he made it. He got to the interview, absolutely nailed it, and they selected him. Get this. He was the only candidate from the entire country of India in his field to get that scholarship that year. Just incredible.
So what's the big lesson here? What do we learn when you put that intense crucible story and this crazy cliffhanger story together? Well, you get a really powerful insight into what it actually takes to build a career that lasts, one that's truly successful.
I love this because it totally reframes how we think about resilience. It's not about trying to avoid the storms in your life, because let's be honest, storms are going to come. It's about building a vessel that's strong enough and finding a crew that you trust enough to sail right through them. So who's the person who can't easily be touched by burnout? It's someone who's anchored by a real mission, someone who's supported and strengthened by their tribe. And it's the person whose everyday work is an act of integrity, something that quietly, almost magically, is building bridges to where they want to go next. This whole story really shows us that there are two ways opportunity can find you. There's the official channel, right? The one that can get totally tangled up in red tape and bureaucracy. But then there's what you might call the karmic path. And that's the one that's paved by the good you put out into the world. It shows up unexpectedly and can bring you things you never even dreamed of. And that really leaves us with one last question to chew on. We spend so much time thinking about what we need to get from the world to be successful. But maybe, just maybe, the better question is this. What good have you already put out there? What acts of integrity, what little kindnesses might be circling back to you right now without you even realizing?